Welcome to Her Upper Hand, a series exploring themes and journeys around female gambling harm.
It's weird, isn't it? I was talking to Deb earlier on. I'm so different. I hated being different as a kid. I hated it.
You'll hear from 6 women, each affected in different but connected ways by gambling.
I started doing performance poetry. That was the one thing that gave me a bigger adrenaline rush than gambling ever did.
Over the course of 6 weeks, they've been learning about podcasting. And this series is the culmination of all that work.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing.
In each episode, you'll hear one woman harness the power of audio to explore these themes in her own words.
This is Her Upper Hand. Her Upper Hand. Real talk about women's experiences of gambling.
This is Aisha. It's not her real name, but this is her real story.
A quick message for our listeners. In this series, you'll hear from women who have been affected by gambling, either personally or through people they care about. These episodes hold space for joy, resilience and hope, but we'll also talk openly about the emotional impact these experiences can have. Please take care while listening. You're welcome to pause, skip or return whenever it feels right. Welcome to the episode Unspoken Wounds, How Gambling Harm Has Affected Us Within Our South Asian Home. I'm currently sat in the living room of our family and childhood home. I know I have my own personal experiences and thoughts, but I'm joined by my older sister today to learn more about her experience of how gambling has had an impact on her life. So, thank you for being here today. I just want to have a chat to explore what your experience has been like, as until recently I found that I've buried quite a lot of the impact away. Can you tell me a bit about what childhood was like for you? You are the oldest from us.
Yeah, definitely. So I think when I think back to childhood, I think of there being lots of ups and downs and it being quite chaotic. There was a lot of instability and there was definitely some very, very good times. I think generally I got what I needed from my childhood in terms of good life lessons and roof over my head and a lovely family to support me and, you know, be there through various different milestones. But I also think that it came with a lot of challenges and lots of really deep lows. There were some very, very difficult and challenging times and chaos and just a lot of instability. I just don't think it was quite level. So I would say it was pretty chaotic, to say the least.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, and I resonate with quite a lot of that. You know, it's the instability part especially, like, but there's a lot of happy memories there, and it was generally an overall good childhood, and I can say that our family done the best that they can in whatever circumstances that they found themselves in. So just delving in a bit deeper now, how did you come to realise that a family member was gambling?
I'd say the first inkling was probably at the age of 4, going through drawers in the living room looking for something. We had a cabinet and in it I just found loads of poker chips, and I don't think I quite realised what they were at first. I just thought they were a toy, but how could they be a toy if I didn't know about them? And then later on there was probably just lots more clues lying around. So we had a shared laptop, we had multiple shared iPads after that as well, and there was probably tabs left open on websites for horse racing or the football or any sort of casino games and things. So there was lots of clues here and there. It quite clearly pointed towards one specific family member because they I think the way they carried themselves emotionally, if they'd had a difficult day, you could see that nothing bad had happened in the house and yet their mood was very, very low and very angry and very hostile, and I'd probably pair that with a possibility of loss of earnings that day from gambling. So there was quite a lot of clues and it didn't take a long time to put it all together.
Yeah, when I try and think about how I came to realise that our family member was gambling, I can't really pinpoint it. I think I was maybe a bit older than that, so maybe it wasn't as evident for me, but I if I was to pinpoint it, it's probably just the sort of lack of presence in childhood, wasn't it? And this seemingly other distraction that felt like that there was always something more pressing for that person rather than that sort of family time. Can you tell me a bit about how gambling harms have affected you? When I think about this question, I try and think about the past, and I try and think about how it's affected. And just when I was touching on family time, I think that it's had quite a prominent effect on that. You know, key significant events, family time, like birthdays and things. There was always this person not there. And if they were present, it would be sort of away from the rest of the family in the kitchen or in the living room, not sitting where the rest of us all would be sort of gathering.
Definitely. So I would say the main one would be key family events, so things like Eid or birthdays. The family member wasn't really present because there was too many there was other more important things to be getting on with. Mainly being preoccupied by their phone. But even just casual things like if we all went out as a family to the cinema, or if we went to, I don't know, the theme park, said person would always go missing. So cinema, we all bought tickets as a family of 6 at the time, but only 5 of us were there throughout the whole film. Or if we were at the theme parks and things, suddenly you would turn around and they'd gone missing, and you'd always wonder where have they gone. And it was always quite stressful because we didn't have mobile phones at the time, because we were quite young. So it was quite difficult to just sort of enjoy the day knowing that you'd been abandoned. And I don't think that person even registered that it was a stress, or if they were stressed. I like not to think about it, but I wonder if they knew they were that we were stressed, was it a case where they just didn't care? I think that's something that I found quite difficult to process. So those would be the main ones, but also not knowing what sort of mood you were going to find them in after school, or if you were trying to chat to them. Was it a good day? Was it a bad day? Had they had a big winning and therefore was elated for the rest of the day? Or more often than not, were they going to be quite hostile and angry, probably correlated with a big loss? So it was just chaos, to be honest with you, and I think it consumed a lot of our childhood, emotionally and physically.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. You know, when we were younger, just this family member wasn't present at a lot of things, like if we're going to theme parks or cinemas, just as you said. Would you say that gambling harm still impacts you?
I think in the ways that we've spoken about, I think that still happens. Now, I don't know if said family member still gambles. It's really hard to tell. I don't know if they've gotten better at hiding it, or do they just not do it as much, because there's not as many clues now as there used to be. What I will say though is, I think as a result of that lost childhood time and that bonding time, they don't seem to, I don't know about you, but like I think that they don't really seem to have an interest even now engaging with family events and, you know, key milestones like birthdays and things. So it just means that we don't really know each other that well, and it becomes quite difficult to even have a conversation for more than 5-10 minutes. So emotionally, I think it's affected our relationship. Physically, or I suppose like psychologically, I think it's caused me a lot of anxiety. I'm quite worried about keeping my cards close to my chest and not letting on too much about my earnings, or, you know, about any assets that I've purchased, and I think it's because of a fear of losing them. So and I see this a lot in yourself as well, of like not saying that you've done something until it's actually happened because of fear of it not actually happening. And I think it's that sort of feeling that things can be snatched away from you at any point, based on your financial status at the time. I think when we were young, there was a lot of times where we had everything we wanted and more, and then there was other times where there was very, very little, and it was very difficult to ask for any financial support, say for school trips or things like that. You almost felt guilty asking for money. And I think that sort of feeling still sticks with me now, of tomorrow am I going to not have the things that I have today, and does it mean that I need to stockpile savings and things in case I lose my job, which is, you know, it is a real possibility, but it's probably quite unlikely. But I still have this fear of losing everything I have because of it being quite a common theme of our childhood.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I'd probably say that gambling harm still impacts me as well. You know, there's always this, just for example, this family member refusing to spend money on something like, say car insurance, something that's impacting all of us, or getting me added to the car insurance, but it's almost like my mind goes straight to, well, you have enough money to gamble, so why can't you spend this on your family, you know? And just when you were saying about how there seems to be an emotional impact and we don't really know each other, and it's quite difficult to kind of have conversations and things, and it's not evident if they still are gambling or if that's just their personality. It actually makes me wonder, maybe they were engaging in gambling from all that time because of loneliness, or maybe some sort of self-esteem feelings and things like that, and yeah, so that's quite an interesting perspective. Being South Asian, do you think that gambling and its effects are often talked about within our culture?
I don't think anything is spoken about in our culture, to be honest, unless it's people casting judgment on others for things that are totally irrelevant or irrational, and that's something that I think is going to break down with generations. But to be honest with you, anything to do with any addiction is not spoken about at all, probably because of things like honour and just preserving your family image and family name in communities. So no, it's not spoken about. But that being said, I don't think gambling spoke about in any culture. I don't think in Britain there's really any sort of knowledge or grasp that people have on the effects of gambling. If you look at these betting shops, they're pretty freely available. You see them on every high street, and the only thing that they have to prevent you from gambling too much is the age restriction from 18, which is still quite an important age where you form habits, but also just the whole slogan of when the fun stops, stop. And I think that's mainly to cover themselves more than anything. I don't think there's particularly good precautions out there. Whereas things like alcohol, you know, in Scotland you can see that they stop selling at a certain time. It's very highly regulated. It's taxed quite heavily as a deterrent. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but there are efforts there, and that comes from recognising that alcohol has direct health issues. Similar with smoking, it's hidden away in a cabinet, and, you know, every cigarette packet has all the awful pictures to deter you from even starting the habit in the first place. And I don't think there's anything that deters you from starting gambling. And if anything, there's a taste for it at a young age at these fairgrounds where children can put, you know, 10, 20p, and it kind of spirals from there. And you do see people with clearly issues with gambling where they can't stop. And even though it's at a very small scale compared to, you know, the horse races and things, it's still a potential for a loss depending on how long you spend there. So I don't think it's spoken about in any culture. And when you look at TV and the media and how it represents gambling, it's very different to alcohol and smoking. Drugs, alcohol and smoking, it's generally in quite a negative light that it shows these things in. It's meant to be something that deliberately causes breakdown in family structures. Whereas gambling, I don't ever see, I can't even think of a show where gambling is shown to be something that's negative in any way. If anything, it's glamorized. It's very, you know, Vegas and casinos and people wearing suits, and they're clearly of quite a high class when they're engaging in gambling, and that's not the case for the everyday working class person. So I think it's quite sad that it's misrepresented, because if there was at least a little bit more awareness amongst people, then perhaps we could pick up the warning signs earlier and support our family members and actually know what counselling or, you know, support groups exist. And it's affected us in so many ways. Like, we've not even shed light on the quite extreme examples of how gambling's really impacted us. But I think even now, to this day, I find it quite difficult to be around, you know, friends who interact with their families very positively. And although I don't know what happens behind closed doors, there's a lot of elements of their relationships and the support that their parents to this day still give their kids that I'm like, I didn't have that, and I think that was robbed of us, to be honest, solely because of the gambling. It's really robbed us of a lot of nice experiences and important time to build relationships with our family members. But then again, I'm really grateful for the fact that we can speak about it amongst us as siblings, because we've all shared that experience, and it's probably built a lot of strength in us and has given us lots of things that we might not have had in other households perhaps. So although I don't wish for it on anyone, I do think it's probably helped us build the characters that we have now.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of things there that I can relate to, and it doesn't seem like gambling is talked about a lot, especially with women. I agree with you there with the sort of glamorising. You think about bongo, bingo and things like that when you're at uni, and it just seems like a nice night out and time to spend with your friends, but really maybe there's needs to be consideration that there's a lack of third spaces for people. Like maybe people need a space that isn't work or, you know, work or education, or like, you know, your house, like somewhere to socialise without having to, you know, maybe that needs to be considered. But thank you for taking the time to have this chat with me today. I do feel really empowered that this being a topic we've never actually openly discussed, we've been able to look at its impact today, and hopefully we can take some steps to heal.
Brilliant, thank you.
This episode was created by Aisha, and you also heard from her sister.
Before we go, we wanted to recognise that some of the content from today's episode may have resonated with some of you. If any part of the conversation felt a bit too familiar or brought up some difficult feelings, especially around gambling harm, whether it's affecting you directly or someone you care about, please know that you don't have to face this alone. There are free, confidential services out there to help support you. If you feel that you are in a crisis, please contact the National Gambling Helpline on 0808 8020 133 or the Samaritans on 116 123. Both services operate a 24-hour, 7 days a week helpline. You can also find more information and support through the Bet No More website. That's betno, as in KNOW, moreuk.org.
Her Upper Hand was the product of a 6-week course by Greater Govanhill Magazine, facilitated by Eve Livingston and Flora Zajicek. The podcast producer was Flora Zajicek. The project was funded by Gamble Aware and published by The Big Light. To find out more, visit the Greater Govanhill website.